Part 1. The Cosmic Engineering Commission had ruled over technology in the galaxy for 11,000 years. Their headquarters floated in orbit around a dead star called Prime, a massive station made of crystal and metal that glowed with ancient power. From this place, 12 species decided which civilizations could have which technologies. They decided when a young species could learn to build faster ships. They decided who could have medicine that cured plagues. They decided everything. Commissioner Al had served on the commission for 300 years. She was a being with smooth gray skin that changed colors based on her emotions. Right now, her skin was calm blue as she reviewed the day's petitions. Another young species wanted fusion reactors. Another wanted atmospheric processors. The requests never stopped, and the answer was almost always the same: not yet. The system worked, Al believed. Young species were dangerous. They did not understand the power they asked for. They had received antimatter containment technology 2,000 years ago, and within 50 years they had destroyed themselves completely. They had gotten terraforming tools and immediately started fighting wars over who would control them. Better to give technology slowly, carefully, than to watch civilizations burn themselves to ash. The petitioner's chamber was designed to make visitors feel small. The ceiling rose so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. The walls were carved with the names of every species that had ever asked the commission for help. Most of those species no longer existed. The chamber was a reminder that the commission had seen civilizations rise and fall for thousands of years, and it would continue long after the petitioners were gone. When the human delegation arrived, Al expected nothing unusual. Humanity had been spacefaring for only 400 years. They had been classified as a Type 2.3 civilization, which meant they were still learning basic interstellar travel. They should be asking for navigation charts or perhaps improved life support systems. Standard requests from a standard young species. Ambassador Wei walked into the chamber with 7 staff members behind her. She was a small woman with black hair and calm eyes. She did not look impressed by the massive room. She did not look nervous. She simply walked to the speaking platform and waited for permission to address the commission. Al granted it with a wave of her hand. "State your petition, Ambassador." "We are not here to petition," said. Her voice was quiet but carried easily through the chamber. "We are here to inform you of something." The 12 commissioners shifted in their seats. This was unusual. Species did not come to Prime to inform. They came to ask. They came to beg. "We have developed faster-than-light communication," continued. "Our quantum entanglement arrays became operational 6 months ago. We are now able to send messages instantly across any distance." Silence filled the chamber. Al felt her skin flash to yellow, the color of surprise, before she could control it. Faster-than-light communication was one of the most restricted technologies in the galaxy. Species had to demonstrate cultural stability across 5 generations before they could even apply for access. Humanity had been spacefaring for 4 centuries. They should not have this technology for another 1,000 years. "Impossible," said Commissioner of the. His compound eyes clicked as they focused on the human ambassador. "Your species does not have the theoretical foundation for such development. You are not scheduled to receive the prerequisite knowledge for another 600 years. "We developed it ourselves," said simply. "We did not wait for your schedule." Al leaned forward. "You are claiming that your species independently created technology that took the elder species 3,000 years to develop." "We are not claiming it. We are stating it as fact. You are welcome to examine our systems." The chamber erupted in noise. Commissioners spoke over each other. Advisors rushed to check databases. The delegation's eyes spun in their sockets, a sign of extreme agitation. Al raised her hand for silence. It took a long moment for the noise to stop. "Ambassador, even if your claim is true, you must understand that this technology is restricted for good reasons. Young species are not ready for such power." "We disagree." "Your disagreement is irrelevant. The Commission has 11,000 years of experience in these matters. We have watched species destroy themselves with technology they could not handle. We have protocols. We have procedures. We have. You have control, interrupted. Her voice remained calm, but her eyes were hard. You decide who gets to advance and who must stay behind. You decide who lives in comfort and who struggles in darkness. You have turned technology into a tool of power instead of a gift of progress. Al's skin flushed red with anger. You do not understand what you are saying. The restrictions exist to protect young species from themselves. The restrictions exist to protect your power over young species. Took a breath. But that is not why we are here. We came to inform you of our development so you would understand what comes next. What comes next? We have shared our faster-than-light communication technology with our colonies and trading partners. All of them, including 17 species on your restricted development list. The chamber went completely silent. Even the advisors stopped moving. Every eye in the room focused on the small human woman standing alone on the speaking platform. Al felt cold fear spread through her body. You have distributed restricted technology to unauthorized species. We have shared our own technology with our friends, technology that we developed ourselves without your permission or assistance, technology that belongs to us, not to you. This is a violation of galactic law. It is a violation of your law, a law we did not agree to, a law that was created by species who wanted to stay in power, not species who wanted to help others grow. Commissioner rose from his seat. This is an act of war. Did not flinch. No, Commissioner. This is an act of freedom. We do not recognize your authority to decide who deserves technology. We do not accept that some species must suffer while others prosper. We believe that knowledge belongs to everyone who seeks it. Al struggled to maintain her composure. Her skin was cycling through colors too fast for her to control. You have destabilized the entire developmental framework. Those species were not ready. You will cause chaos. You will cause destruction. You will. We will take that risk, said, because we believe in them. We believe that most species, given the chance, will use knowledge to build rather than destroy. We believe that the galaxy is full of civilizations that have been held back not by their own limitations, but by your fear of losing control. You know nothing of galactic history. You are children playing with forces you do not understand. Smiled for the first time. It was not a happy smile. We know enough history to recognize when power is being abused. We know enough to see that your system is not about protection. It is about control. And we know enough to understand that the only way to break that control is to make it meaningless. She turned to leave, then stopped. We are not asking for your approval, Commissioner. We are not asking for your permission. We are simply telling you that the old way is over. Technology is not a prize to be earned or a weapon to be controlled. It is a tool that belongs to all thinking beings. This will not stand, Al said. The Commission will respond. We expected that. Nodded to her staff and they began to walk toward the exit. But you should know something before you decide how to respond. The species we have helped, they are grateful. They remember who kept them in darkness for centuries. And they remember who finally turned on the light. The human delegation left the chamber. The doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. Al sat in silence for a long moment, her skin finally settling into gray, the color of worry. The other commissioners looked to her for guidance. She had none to give. In 11,000 years, no species had ever challenged the Commission like this. No species had ever refused to play by the rules. Humanity had not just broken the rules. They had declared that the rules no longer applied. And somehow, impossibly, they had made allies before the Commission could stop them. The galaxy was about to change. Al did not know if it would survive. Part 2. 3 years passed, and the galaxy did not fall into chaos. This surprised no one more than Commissioner Al. She had expected disaster. She had expected the species that received human technology to destroy themselves, just as the Anda had done long ago. She had expected fire and war and proof that the Commission's careful approach was the only way to ensure survival. Instead, she watched something else happen, something she could not explain. There were a small species living on a dying world. Their atmosphere had been failing for 2,000 years, slowly becoming too thin to breathe. They had applied to the Commission for atmospheric processing technology 9 times. 9 times they had been. They were not culturally stable enough, the Commission had decided. They had not demonstrated sufficient technological maturity. They needed to wait. Humanity had not made them wait. 6 months after the delegation left Prime, human engineers arrived with complete atmospheric processor designs. They did not just give them the technology. They taught them how to build it. They taught them how to maintain it. They taught them how to improve it. Within 2 years, the atmosphere had stabilized. A species that had been slowly dying was now growing again. Their population increased. Their cities expanded. They began to build ships and explore their home system for the first time in centuries. They did not destroy themselves. They did not start wars. They simply lived. The same story repeated across the galaxy. The cooperative received human medical technology and eliminated 3 plagues that had killed millions every generation. They got fusion reactor designs and finally had enough power to heat their frozen colonies. They learned how to build water purifiers and save their desert world from complete drought. None of them collapsed, none of them burned, they just grew stronger. Chief Engineer stood before the Galactic Technical Forum on 9th, presenting what his team called the complete package. This was everything humanity had learned about technology, written in 847 languages, freely available to any species with a receiver. The forum was packed with representatives from hundreds of species. Most of them had been on the Commission's restricted list. Most of them had spent centuries waiting for permission to advance. Now they watched a human offer them everything at once. "This is our fusion containment research," said, pointing to a holographic display. "These are our designs. These are our manufacturing processes. These are our failure logs. We have included the 17 versions that did not work, and we have explained why they failed. Anyone who reads this can learn from our mistakes without having to make them." A delegate raised a long arm. There were insect-like beings with hard shells and complex eyes. They had been advanced materials science for 800 years. "You are giving us everything, all of your advantages." "We do not see knowledge as an advantage," replied. "We see it as a tool that should belong to everyone. A civilization that keeps fusion power secret while its neighbors freeze is not advanced. It is cruel." The forum erupted in conversation. Species that had never spoken to each other began sharing ideas. Engineers from different worlds compared notes. Scientists who had been working alone discovered that others had solved their problems years ago. The Commission watched all of this happen and did not know how to respond. Al pushed for strong action. She wanted trade embargoes. She wanted travel restrictions. She wanted humanity labeled as a threat to galactic stability. Some commissioners agreed with her. Others hesitated. "They have done nothing illegal," Commissioner of the argued. His species had long been neutral in Commission politics. "They developed their technology independently. They can share it with whoever they want." "They are undermining our authority." "They are not undermining authority. They are making it irrelevant. There is a difference." The Commission eventually passed a formal censure against humanity. They declared humans a destabilizing influence. They restricted human ships from Commission space. They warned other species against accepting human assistance. None of it mattered. The technology was already spreading. You cannot put knowledge back in a box once it has been released. Doctor served as humanity's chief liaison to the newly formed Free Technology Compact. This was an alliance of species that had decided to share technology freely, following the human model. Within 2 years of its founding, the Compact had more members than the Commission. She met with Al one final time on a neutral station near the Rim territories. The station was old and worn, far from the gleaming crystal of Prime. It seemed like a fitting place for this conversation. "You have broken something that worked," Al said. Her skin was gray with exhaustion. She had not slept well in months. The developmental framework existed for reasons. Species do destroy themselves with technology they cannot handle. Some do, agreed. She was a tall woman with dark skin and patient eyes. Most do not. The Commission's records show that less than 3% of species that received restricted technology actually destroyed themselves. You use those rare failures to justify controlling everyone else. Those failures were preventable. Were they, or were they caused by the very system you built? Leaned forward. They did not destroy themselves because they received antimatter technology. They destroyed themselves because their society was already collapsing. A collapse that started when you them medical advances that could have stabilized their population. They did not fight wars over terraforming. They fought wars over access to terraforming. Your restrictions created the scarcity that drove them to violence. Al's skin flushed red. That is not true. It is documented in your own records. We have read them. Many species have read them now. They know what you did. The Commissioner sat in silence for a long moment. Even if some of our decisions were wrong, the principle remains sound. Young species need guidance. Guidance, yes. Control, no. There is a difference between teaching someone to use a tool and refusing to let them touch it until they prove they are worthy. Stood. The galaxy is not your garden, Commissioner. These species are not your children. They are thinking beings with the same right to knowledge that you claim for yourself. You cannot guarantee that this new approach will not end in catastrophe. No, we can only guarantee that it will be their choice, their success or their failure earned by their own actions. She walked toward the door. That is what you never understood about freedom. It has to include the freedom to fail. Al watched her go. She sat alone in the meeting room for a long time, thinking about 11,000 years of careful control, thinking about all the species that had waited in darkness while the Commission decided if they were ready for light. She thought about the breathing clean air for the first time in generations. She thought about the children who would never know the plagues that had killed their ancestors. She thought about all the lives saved by technology that the Commission had kept locked away. Had any of it been worth it? Had the Commission actually protected anyone, or had they just protected themselves? She did not know. After 300 years of service, she no longer knew anything at all. Part 3. 50 years passed. The galaxy changed in ways that no one had predicted. Ambassador Sophia walked through the corridors of Prime, still marveling at how different it felt. Her grandmother had been part of the first human delegation to this place, back when the Commission had been all-powerful, and humanity had been seen as nothing more than a troublesome young species. Now the station looked the same on the outside, but everything inside had transformed. Species that had once waited in the petitioner's chamber now sat on the Commission itself. They had a representative. So did thee and a dozen others who had spent centuries being told they were not ready. The old power structure had crumbled, replaced by something new and strange and hopeful. Entered the High Council Hall. This was where her grandmother had first challenged the old order, telling the Commission that technology belonged to everyone. The crystalline walls still glowed with ancient light, but the atmosphere had changed completely. Species mixed freely in the galleries. Engineers from different worlds shared ideas openly. Knowledge flowed through the station like blood through a living body. Commissioner Al still served. She was one of the few original members who had chosen to stay after the transformation. Her gray skin had faded with age, and she moved more slowly than she once had, but her eyes were still sharp. She rose to address the assembly, The hall fell silent. 50 years ago, humanity came to this place and told us that our system was broken. Her voice was steady, though could see the effort it took to speak. We did not believe them. We argued that stability required control. We argued that advancement required gatekeeping. We argued that some species deserved technology and others did not. She paused, looking out over the gathered representatives from hundreds of worlds. We were wrong. Murmurs rippled through the hall. In 11,000 years, no commissioner had ever publicly admitted error. The old commission had never apologized. They had simply insisted that they knew best, even when the evidence suggested otherwise. The species we feared would destroy themselves have not destroyed themselves, Al continued. The chaos we predicted has not come. Instead, we have seen something remarkable. We have seen civilizations that were held back for centuries finally allowed to grow. We have seen problems that seemed impossible become simple when many minds worked together. We have seen the galaxy become stronger through cooperation instead of weaker through competition. She turned to face directly. The human ambassador felt the weight of history in that gaze. Humanity taught us something we had forgotten in 11,000 years of governance. Technology is not a reward for the worthy. It is a tool for the living. All of them. Every species struggling against the darkness deserves the light we can offer. The ceremony that followed awarded humanity the Commission's highest honor, the credit of advancement. This was given to species that had fundamentally improved galactic civilization. In 11,000 years, it had been awarded only 3 times. Humanity was the 4th. Accepted the award on behalf of her species. She thought about her grandmother, who had stood in this same hall and refused to beg for technology. She thought about all the humans who had worked to make this moment possible. She thought about all the species who had joined them in building something new. We never believed we were special, she told the assembly. Her voice carried easily through the massive chamber. We just believed that knowledge should not have borders, that helping your neighbor does not make you weaker. It makes both of you stronger. The galaxy is vast and cold and dangerous, and the only way any of us survive is together. After the ceremony, she walked through the station's observation deck. Ships from 100 worlds moved through the traffic lanes outside, carrying goods and passengers and ideas between the stars. It was hard to imagine that this level of cooperation had seemed impossible just 50 years ago. A young engineer approached her. They had been one of the first species to join the Free Technology Compact. They had gone from a restricted civilization to a major contributor to galactic science in less than 3 decades. Ambassador, may I ask you something? Of course. Why did your people do it? The risk was enormous. The Commission could have destroyed you. They had more ships, more resources, more allies. Why did you challenge them? Considered the question. She had been asked it many times over the years, and she still was not sure she had a perfect answer. We remembered what it was like to be alone, she said finally. To look at the stars and feel small, to face problems too big for one species to solve. She paused. Someone helped us once, long ago. Other humans in other times, sharing what they knew so those who came after could build something better. We just decided that the family was bigger than we thought. The shell changed color slightly, a sign of deep emotion. The Commission kept us separate to keep us dependent. Your people connected us to make us free. Free to fail, acknowledged. Free to grow, free to help each other. She gestured toward the viewport. That is all any of us ever really wanted. They stood together in silence, watching the ships move between the stars. Somewhere out there, species that had been strangers were becoming friends. Problems that had seemed impossible were being solved by minds working together. The galaxy was still vast and cold and dangerous, but it was no longer quite so dark. 20 years later, the phrase technology is for all was inscribed in the founding charter of the Galactic Commons. This was the new organization that replaced the old commission, built on principles of openness and cooperation instead of control and restriction. By universal agreement, the phrase was credited to humanity, not because humans had invented it, but because they had lived it. They had arrived at the stars with nothing but stubbornness and an unshakable conviction that no one should have to face the darkness alone. Commissioner Al lived long enough to see the charter signed. She attended the ceremony as an honored guest, her gray skin finally showing something close to peace. "I spent 300 years trying to protect the galaxy," she told afterward. "I believed that control was the only way to ensure survival. I was so afraid of what might go wrong that I never considered what might go right." "Fear makes us do that," said gently. "It makes us hold tight to what we have instead of reaching for what we could become." Al nodded slowly. "Your species is very strange, Ambassador. You reached for everything and somehow you did not fall." "We fell many times. We just kept getting back up," she smiled. "That is the other secret, I think. Not that we are braver than other species or smarter or better. We are just stubborn enough to keep trying even when we fail." The old commissioner considered this for a long moment. Then, for the first time in all the years had known her, she smiled. "Perhaps that is what the galaxy needed all along," she said. "Not a species with all the answers, just one stubborn enough to ask the right questions." Outside the viewport, the stars continued to shine. They had been burning for billions of years, indifferent to the civilizations that rose and fell beneath them. But now, for the first time in galactic history, those civilizations were truly working together. Not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. Not because someone told them they were ready, but because they decided to reach for the light themselves. Technology is for all. It was more than a phrase, it was a promise. And humanity, against all odds, had kept it.